Why do the people you help the most sometimes hurt you the most? You stayed up late to help them. You gave money you didn't really have to spare. You listened when nobody else would. And then, quietly, something changed. They stopped answering your messages. They started finding small ways to criticize you. Somehow, the person you helped became the person who resents you. This isn't just bad luck, it's a pattern. And Friedrich Nietzsche, more than a century ago, gave us a brutal way to understand it. In this documentary, we'll explore why kindness sometimes creates resentment, what Nietzsche discovered about gratitude and power, and what modern psychology says about the quiet war inside the human ego. Receiving help feels good for a moment, but underneath that moment, something uncomfortable is happening. To need help is to admit weakness, and most people cannot sit peacefully with that feeling for long. Nietzsche wrote about what he called resentment. In simple words, this means a hidden bitterness that builds up in someone who feels powerless. It's not hatred at first. It's smaller than that. It's discomfort. And discomfort, left alone, grows. Think about a time someone helped you when you were struggling. Did part of you feel grateful and another part feel small? That second feeling is where this story begins. How kindness can quietly humiliate. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Help is never neutral. Every time you help someone, you also remind them of a gap between what they needed and what they could not provide for themselves. Nietzsche believed strength wasn't only physical. For him, real strength meant standing on your own values, your own judgment, your own 2 feet. When someone rescues you again and again, that standing gets quietly taken away. Alfred Adler, a psychologist who studied inferiority and self-esteem, believed people are constantly trying to move from a felt weakness toward a sense of strength. When someone helps you again and again, that movement gets interrupted. You feel dependent instead of capable. Now think about this. The friend who once thanked you sincerely. Later, they avoid your calls. It's not that they forgot your kindness. It's that your kindness became a mirror they didn't want to look into anymore. Gratitude, at first, feels warm. But gratitude also creates a kind of debt, and debt is heavy to carry, especially an emotional one. Nietzsche argued that gratitude can quietly turn into resentment when a person feels permanently placed below the one who helped them, not because they're ungrateful, because they're human. In his book On the Genealogy of Morality, Nietzsche described what he called slave morality, a way of thinking where someone who feels weak or lesser starts to quietly redefine strength itself as something suspicious, even something wrong. In simple words, if a person cannot feel equal to you through their own actions, part of them may start looking for reasons to see your strength or your generosity as the real problem. It's a way of making peace with feeling small. Most people never notice this shift happening inside themselves. They only notice the result: irritation, distance, small criticisms that don't quite make sense. This is where everything changes. The relationship stops being about kindness. It becomes, quietly, about power. Every act of giving creates a position. One person gives, one person receives. At first, this feels harmless, but repeated over time, it becomes a structure. You become the strong one. They become the one who needed help. Nobody says this out loud, but both people feel it. Modern social psychology has studied similar dynamics in relationships where support flows in only one direction. The receiver often reports lower self-esteem over time, even while appreciating the support itself. Not every psychologist agrees on exactly why this happens, but the pattern shows up often enough to take seriously. The imbalance isn't cruelty, it's just gravity. And gravity, left unaddressed, eventually pulls people apart. When success in kindness triggers silent jealousy, sometimes it isn't only about the help itself, it's about what the help represents. Your stability, your capability, your ability to give when they could only receive. Nietzsche would say this reaction comes from the will to power working against itself. Your success is a quiet reminder of a strength they haven't reached yet, and that reminder can feel like an accusation, even when you never meant it as one. Carl Jung, writing decades after Nietzsche, believed we all carry a hidden side of ourselves, a shadow, made of the feelings we don't want to admit having. Jealousy often lives there. Have you ever noticed someone growing colder toward you right around the time your life started going well? This is often not really about you. It's about the uncomfortable comparison your presence creates. Their betrayal is usually about them, not you. This is the part most people miss. When someone turns against you after you've helped them, it rarely means your kindness was wrong. It usually means they are fighting a battle inside themselves, one you can't see. Viktor Frankl, writing from some of the darkest circumstances imaginable, insisted that people are always searching for meaning, even in suffering, including the meaning they make of their own weakness. For some people, distancing themselves from a helper is the only way they know how to reclaim a sense of control. It's not fair to you, but it's rarely really about you either. Help without creating dependency. So does this mean you should stop helping people? No. It means you should help differently. Marcus Aurelius, writing to himself centuries ago, reminded himself again and again to do good without needing recognition for it. Not because recognition is wrong to want, but because expecting it sets you up for disappointment. Help in ways that build someone's own strength, not their reliance on you. Teach instead of rescuing when you can. Give space for someone to solve part of the problem themselves. Dependency feels kind in the moment. It often isn't kind in the long run. 5 principles to protect yourself while helping others. First, help because it aligns with who you are, not because you expect loyalty in return. Second, notice when help is becoming a pattern of rescue rather than support. Third, allow people the dignity of struggling with some of their own problems. Fourth, don't confuse gratitude with obligation. People are allowed to feel grateful without owing you their future. Fifth, protect your own resources, emotional and financial, so your kindness doesn't quietly become resentment of your own. Help wisely, not blindly. The goal was never to stop caring about people. The goal is to care in a way that doesn't quietly destroy the relationship from the inside. Nietzsche's insight was never an argument against kindness. It was a warning about the kind of giving that ignores what the will to power does inside another person's heart. Resentment, slave morality, the gift-giving virtue. These were his words for the same repeating truth. People are not simple. Gratitude and resentment can live in the very same heart, sometimes on the very same day. So the next time you help someone, help wisely. Give in a way that builds their strength instead of their dependence, because real compassion doesn't create a debt that quietly rots into resentment. Real compassion creates the conditions for someone to eventually stand on their own. And maybe that's the real question worth sitting with tonight. Are you helping people grow, or are you, without realizing it, helping them stay small?